what equipment do we need to do Wi-Fi penetration testing? We will be going through the equipment that we need, including hardware like computer Wi-Fi adapter or network interface card, and then also software related equipment. So that's the virtual machine, which is optional but convenient, the operating system that you would be using, and software tools that will be running on that operating system. Generally, there are not so many specific requirements for the laptop on which you're running your software tools, but one thing that you might want to know is that for some of the brute forcing type attacks where we're trying to recover a key by running through many different keys, then you would want to consider the amount of processing power that your laptop has. This is generally not that important. You could just use a regular laptop if you understand that this might need to be done. Brute forcing might need computational power, and you then could move the brute forcing processing to another machine, so perhaps a more powerful machine, after you have captured various information over the air and then stored it in a file. You could also be doing it in the cloud. So for example, you could be setting up something on Amazon Web Services and then doing the processing there. So besides the processing power, there's also other computing resources that this laptop would need to have. And generally, for something like our requirements, it depends on whether you're using a virtual machine. So if you're using a virtual machine platform, say VirtualBox or VMware, with a virtual machine, then you need to have enough RAM and resources to run the virtualization platform, and then to be running the operating system and software tools inside of it without affecting performance by having not enough resources. The laptop doesn't even need to have an inbuilt Wi-Fi network interface card, because for the most part we can just use USB Wi-Fi network interface cards. There can be difficulties if we are using something like PCI in the host machine and then trying to get access to this network interface card within the virtual machine. Generally, USB is the easiest and cleanest way. We will see that, for example, when we insert a Wi-Fi a USB-based Wi-Fi network interface card into a USB port, then VMware, for example, would pop up a dialog box asking if this network interface card should be available to the host machine or to the virtual machine, and you can then decide it. And in this case, that you're running your Wi-Fi penetration testing tools in the virtual machine, you would choose the virtual machine. Besides the laptop, the network interface card itself is something that you would need. And here we have a couple of important requirements. We cannot just use just any Wi-Fi network interface card. And as explained in an earlier video, the reason is that for general purpose usage, the network interface card would function as a regular station. When it's doing so, that is perfectly fine for normal Wi-Fi usage, for doing your web browsing or other internet-related networking over Wi-Fi. The problem is that when we want to do penetration testing, we need to be able to do more things over the Wi-Fi network, including things which might not be common in typical everyday usage. So for example, if you want to be able to see more of the frames that are being transmitted and received within that Wi-Fi network, within that BSS, we need to have either promiscuous mode or even better, to have monitor mode enabled. So therefore, the Wi-Fi NIC needs to support monitor mode. And a second requirement, now this is something which is strictly speaking not a requirement in the sense if you are very patient and can wait long enough, you can passively gather frames and then run your attacks. However, in practice, it takes a long time to passively gather frames, so it's much easier and better if the Wi-Fi NIC is able to inject frames even while it's scanning and listening. So not all Wi-Fi NICs can do that. So if you have one that can do that, as well as that is able to do monitor mode, then that is what you're looking for. Plus, as I mentioned, USB for convenience when a virtual machine is used. So how do you know which Wi-Fi network interface cards will support these requirements? There are different vendors clearly for network interface cards, and they use different chipsets. There's just a small number of different chipsets that are available, and these chipsets are what's inside the network interface card. It may be coming from a different vendor. This is, in a sense, more important than who makes the outside package, because the chipset determines the capabilities of what the Wi-Fi hardware can do. And in addition to the chipset, there's also the driver for the chipset that may also enable your monitor mode and packet injection to work freely, or it may restrict your capabilities to do that. So it's important to have a chipset and drivers that are cooperative to allow us to do our Wi-Fi penetration testing.